In the very rare instance that we can actually celebrate England and unanimously get behind a team, unanimously say that was a good performance, and unanimously say we're looking forward to something, let's do that as a fan base. And why not, right? Like, there are plenty of nits that you can pick with any England side. In fact, even looking at this Italy side, there are plenty of nits that you can pick with a side like that. And that is under Spalletti, one of the coaches that people from Italy really feel they can actually get behind. So when we're looking at Gareth Southgate, when we're looking at the rest of this team heading into the Euros they've just qualified for, well, what exactly is it that they are qualifying with? What kind of hope is it that we have here as England fans and people invested in this relatively now mixed experience group of players? And it's interesting to see some of this coming to fruition. We have to start the video by shouting out probably the outstanding performance of the night, despite the fact that he didn't actually score a goal, but he was involved in two of them and, was just basically fantastic in midfield. Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham will go into these Euros at least, and into Euros in the future, as a world-class player, as probably one of the best midfielders in the world, as probably one of the best attacking and defending midfielders in the world, but he's adding something to the England attack that in the past we lacked. There is a literal drive to Jude Bellingham, and there is a level of competency which he shows on the pitch, which just takes England up level after level after level. The criticism would be that if you took him out of the midfield, then it changes the structure to such a degree that, hey, maybe we can be a little bit pessimistic about it. But at the same time, these enabling players that he has around him in Declan Rice, even in Calvin Phillips, even in Jordan Henderson, there are so many other players in there that you could mix in and say, hey, this guy complements X, especially Jude Bellingham. That it feels almost disingenuous to say that this England side doesn't have world-class talent. Like, Harry Kane scored some world-class goals. Harry Kane was world-class. He did what strikers do, and he is showing, I think he's actually showing a difference in level, even after a couple of weeks at Bayern, even after maybe a month or so there, right? Not that he wasn't good at Spurs, but it does feel as if there is now a confidence about him which we hadn't possibly seen before, and possibly a level and a weight lifted off him. Possibly one of the reasons why Jude Bellingham chose not to come to the UK at this stage in his career. Why? Because you just get the ire. You don't get the space to evolve. You don't get the incredible journey that you get with Real Madrid that not only has Jude Bellingham seen, but we've also seen in things like the David Beckham documentary. We've also seen exhibited by so many young players who want to stay there now. And Jude Bellingham is showing the benefits of having a player training basically with the best players in the world. Now, you could say, hey, if he'd gone to Man City, it would be the same. If he'd gone to Liverpool, he'd be driven in a different way. This Jude Bellingham only manifests in the way that he is currently manifesting if he goes to Real Madrid. It's Carlo Ancelotti, it's the training, it's the players, it's the culture, it's the swagger, it's the experience. This cocktail of experiences is what is making Jude Bellingham world class right now. And obviously, that's with the 20 years previous to that. Is it even 20? 21 years previous, but 20. On top of that, what I currently witness is that every time Marcus Rashford goes away, Trent Alexander-Arnold goes away, lots of young England players go away, they show that they're not just classed as part of a system. They show that they are not just, or not even limited by the system that their club manager plays. Now, that manifests in two different ways. With Trent Alexander-Arnold, we know that there is something of a high ceiling there for him, should we say. But when you then see him in the England midfield, when it operates differently to the way that Liverpool operate, when he has different personnel around him, when he doesn't have the comfort blanket, should we say, of a couple of those other players, and in fact, when he has a different kind of comfort blanket because England are slightly more conservative, you still see this freedom. Now, obviously, that wasn't on display this evening, but you see the same in Marcus Rashford, I feel. When you get Marcus Rashford out on that pitch and you get him 1v1 on someone, when you get him in a position he really wants to be, when you get him alongside a striker, which arguably he is kind of developing that relationship at Manchester United. When you got him alongside a striker who you sort of go, you're familiar. I know where you're going to go. I know what I need to achieve. And you set him relatively a simple goal, which is to get towards goal and be Marcus Rashford, basically. Look at the results. Now, that leads me on to my the third point of this video, right? At the moment, I struggle to see England as the front foot side. They were not the side who dominated possession this evening. They were not the side who dominated the amount of shots. They did block 5 shots. They didn't have the 14 shots that Italy had. They were still good, don't get me wrong, and counter-attacking and being the side that get 49% possession or 45 and maximizing that is something that a lot of modern footballers are very good at, and it is a mentality thing that you have to conquer. And I think in more recent years we have conquered, post Pep Guardiola at Barcelona, when all we were told that mattered was the passing formations, the possession, the level, like all these kind of things. Dominance is now measured in a different way, and you can see that, right? But England are not currently that necessarily front foot team. So beating Italy at Wembley on an evening when really Italy are in rebuild mode, when really Italy are finishing third in the group, I think, at the moment, and not wowing people, probably because they're in a transitional period of their own early on with a Spalletti or someone like that. But still, new concepts, concepts the players are invested in, concepts the players are clearly happy with, clearly concepts that the players want to enact with great vigor out in the field. So we cannot criticize that. They played a good Italy side, but an Italy side in transition. We know that England are going to come up against more Italy-sized, Italy-shaped opposition. They have done in Euros before, and they will do against other quality teams. Judging England is not about these qualification matches or these friendly games. Those kind of things feel at this point like bread and butter for Gareth Southgate. And that is, that's not even patronizing. That's not even saying like, or we just take this for granted. He's going to be good no matter what, like, because he's got a good England side, which, by the way, it does at times feel like an embarrassment of riches. All of the articles say it every week. It's like, this guy does have a really stacked bench. He has a really stacked midfield. He has centre-backs who are trained by some of the best coaches in the world and Harry Maguire. But mean to Harry, possibly. But you get my point. Like, when we're saying like he can afford not to put certain players in the team, like James Ward-Prowse, because Ward-Prowse hasn't really been in the squad before. Ward-Prowse hasn't really had a run where he's been able to gel with the rest of the England players. Ward-Prowse probably doesn't have the skill set that, I mean, he will, don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic Premier League player, but probably doesn't have the immediate skill set that we're looking for with Gareth Southgate. Having said that, he'll probably get a call up now, but you get my point. Like, if you've worked with these players like Calvin and with Jude and with Declan and with Jordan, he clearly has his guys now. Like, he's coming towards the end of his tenure. It's like, he's that old chief commissioner who's like, come on, boys, I trust this guy. He'll solve the case. Send him out there. Like, we know what Jordan Henderson does. We know what Calvin Phillips does. We know, we thought we knew what Jude Bellingham was capable of. In fact, there are times where it feels like he's got his wings even clipped within this England side. But you get my point. Like, we know where this England team is going. So bringing in new personnel, bringing in new faces is probably counterintuitive at this point, especially going into a tournament year. It's not to say that if someone doesn't have like an incredible performance, they shouldn't be at least, considered for the side. And saying that, it's about merit and those kind of things is a bit of a cliche at this point. Like, we know that that's not how you build an international team with any form of consistency at any point. In fact, there are other managers out there who would probably struggle to build a team with so little time with them because they are not as pragmatic as Gareth Southgate is, because maybe they aren't as blessed as Gareth Southgate is in terms of the squads. But you get my point. Like, this England side has a strong identity now. Going into the tournament, there is no question that they are one of the favourites. In fact, saying they're above France is crazy, and saying they're above Germany is probably also the same. Saying they're above, even above a Spain, probably above Spain. I think I could put them above Spain. Spain have got some quality talent, don't get me wrong. But this England side have done some special things in recent tournaments. It feels like a bit of a last dance vibe. But having said that, we're also heading into a tournament where there are still some weaknesses which, when another side is more ruthless, is more cutthroat, can England deal with that? Possibly so. Like, 5 block shots on a night is crazy. And Jude Bellingham sort of had run of the midfield this evening, or run of that space, because Italy didn't really cover that, and they kind of got sucked in a couple of times. Even then, this England side are good, but they're a counter-attacking team. They're a side that when you put the emphasis on them, what then? Do you know what now, Gareth? Not that I'm particularly skeptical of Gareth. I know how difficult it is to put these kind of teams together. Spalletti was kind of, a bit, what am I doing now on the side tonight? So you get what I'm saying. But there are players in there where you go, we know now why they are in the team. So let's not keep doing this Harry Maguire thing. Let's not keep doing this Jordan Henderson thing. Let's not keep doing the Calvin. We know that these guys are in the side because Gareth Southgate trusts them, because Gareth Southgate has a role for them. Because when I've been to England training, Jordan Henderson is the most vocal guy there. He was the Liverpool captain at the time, but he still is probably one of the most vocal players because he knows that's where the value comes for him. He knows he's teaching other players to be leaders. He knows he's teaching other people to be valuable members of the squad and not just that starting 11. And I think at the moment we're taking just stupid snipes at people. It's easy to say Jordan Henderson went to Saudi Arabia and retired, or went to another country because he wasn't good enough anymore. That is reductive, and I get it. Like, it's very fun to do that to the guy who once supported XYZ, and there is, to an extent, like, I support people who are angry with the decisions that have been made by top footballers. But that doesn't therefore bleed into analysis. Does that make sense? So what I'm saying is this England team have a strong identity, but that identity has never really been the problem. That identity has never been the thing that has undermined them. This team is coming towards the end now. Jordan Henderson will not be in the squad for the next manager. Harry Maguire, most likely not in the squad for the next manager. Calvin Phillips struggling to get in at that point. We may look at alternatives to some of the people in that front line, possibly Rashford, possibly Kane. We may begin to move on from this squad. And I get it, like, that may be painful. But that adds a vibe. That adds a last dance element to this team. That adds an element of it's now or never. And weirdly, in the past with Gareth Southgate, I've never had that feeling with England. I've always just sort of had that, it's some time. Maybe some time is now for England. They're not better than France. Like, I get it. Like, France have their foibles and they have their quirks. They're not. Like, player for player, we know France just beat, or could have beaten that Argentina side, and they were a hair's breadth from being world champions again. Germany, transition, maybe better than them, maybe equal to them. Italy, clearly equal, if not better than them. But, statistically, I imagine that's part of it, right? The feeling is so key here. But Gareth Southgate knows statistically there are things that he will look at and should look at, which by the next tournament, which is the Euros, if we haven't addressed that, what's the point in the qualification? And that is why Gareth Southgate will probably step down, because there is this feeling that he's brought England to a certain level and he can't get them beyond that. I don't know if that's true. I don't personally feel it is true. I feel like obviously there's always the potential with Gareth and this combination of the team to go a step further, to go and win something. They've made it to finals. They've done impressive things, but they've always flattered to deceive at that very top level. So what I'm saying is it is now or never for England. From here on out, if he picks Henderson, it's for a reason. And you got to think at that point that his colleagues in the England camp back him. You can't question the picking of Kane. You can't question Bellingham. There are certain people who are nailed on. Bellingham, if fit, is in that squad. Kane, if fit, is in that squad. Stones, incredible, if fit, is in that squad. There's a reason he picks the goalkeeper. Kyle Walker, if fit, he's in that squad. I think Trent goes to the tournament. He's not first choice, but he goes to that tournament because of what he offers England. And that's the point here. They've got this adaptability. They've got this changeability. That feels like that could be the X factor for England. This ability to absorb, counterattack, and adapt. Other teams will have a much more prominent identity. Other teams will have a much more aggressive identity. France have that. To an extent, Germany have that. To an extent, obviously, Spain have that. To an extent, you'll see that with Italy and Spalletti. England have this identity now. And we are there. Like, that's ours. I get it. Like, that might change in the future. And there may be this rush to, move on from Gareth Southgate very quick. But he's not gone. He's still there. So to double down on that, to enable people like Harry Kane through that adaptable counter-attacking identity, Rashford, Bellingham, even to an extent Rice, even to an extent Walker, Stones, all these players, even Maguire to an extent in that counter-attacking team because they can sit a little bit deeper. It's not counter-attacking, but you get what I mean? It's like you know? They're a little more they're a little more out of possession. And hey, if Arteta and Pep did it, so can we. So I'm interested to know what your thoughts are as England fans, as, Man United fans, Liverpool fans, Chelsea fans, Arsenal fans. Let me know. I get it. Like, there's a couple of players who are sitting out on the sidelines right now. There's a couple of players doing X, Y, Z. Like, Saka will probably be in that team much more prominently. For so many different reasons. He's tested out a couple of guys. I kind of like that. Is this the final team? No. But are there signs that this adaptable counter-attacking England team can go to a tournament and do something special? Jude Bellingham's one of them. Harry Kane at Bayern's another. I say yes. Are you with me?